Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and today I'm here with Bea Davis. And I love what we're going to talk about because I love to travel, and so does she. And so, Bea, why don't you tell us about yourself and how you got started doing what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, first off, so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. So about a year and a half ago or so, my son kind of encouraged me to start a Facebook page, just basically so he could show all of his friends my photos, for places that I'd been and that sort of thing. He said, Mom, I like to brag on you or whatever. Absolutely adorable. So I decided to go ahead and just do that. We started the page and I started posting, some of the pictures that I had from places that I'd been and some inspirational quotes attached with them. And it kind of just took off from there. So since then, we've developed into kind of like a travel guide, so to speak. We've got some different travel guides that we wrote. I say we because he's like my motivator, although I'm really the one doing all the work, but that's okay. I gotta give him props. We also started the Beachside Banter with Bea podcast, which is kind of where I sit down with, hopefully locals or, travel experts of different types, just to kind of get pick their brain, get answers to like dumb American questions, like what kind of food do you like to eat, and all those, where's the best place to go on a Friday night, and those sort of questions. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I love that. And I'm jealous because I should have done that. I've traveled the world and
Right.
It takes a lot of effort though. It really does.
It really does. Yes, absolutely.
And I don't think people really realize how much time, effort, planning that goes into it. And so tell us what really sparked your love for doing the travel stuff and how much time does it take?
Okay, so I honestly, as a little girl, I really didn't have a lot of like travel desire. And then I went on my first beach vacation outside of the country, and I just realized that the world is huge and there are so many different places that, that are just absolutely waiting there for us to see and visit and explore. So I kind of just started to I don't know, I got bit by the travel bug, so to speak. And then from there it was, hey, let's do whatever we can to travel. I started, basically revolving my life around that just so that I could set myself up for future travel. Both of my kids are adults now. One's 20, gonna be 21, and then my other one just turned 19. So I knew that I was gonna have this time away from them and kind of an empty nester, so to speak. So I was trying to set myself up to be able to do a lot more remote travel and that sort of thing. So I picked up remote jobs. I set myself up remote. We're actually getting ready to relocate close to Atlanta just so that I could travel in and out of that airport really easily because I love Delta. So everything that I've done, I've just kind of wrapped it up into this big desire, this big plan to do all this stuff. So yeah, it's difficult. I will say that I probably should be more active on my social media, but a lot of times I just don't have the time, especially with the move and all of that stuff, trying to prep your house for sale and all of that. I just don't have the time to dedicate to it, but I try to set, at least an hour to 2 hours a day aside just so that I can make sure that I'm, always moving forward in some way, shape, or form with the business. So yeah.
That is fantastic. And what commitment to move to Atlanta? I'm a Delta freak too, so I live in Salt Lake, so that's a hub, and
Right.
I don't like to travel on anything but Delta. Pitch for Delta.
Exactly. That's my favorite airline. I love them, especially once you start getting into their higher up medallion statuses and they start giving you free upgrades to first class. I'm a total first class girl. I had no idea.
It's so hard because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I have to sit with the commoners, and I'm
Right. I'm sorry, guys.
And I have to tell my kids, do you know what sacrifice I'm making right now? Because I don't get upgraded.
Right. No, I totally get that. And it's not even that I'm really going out of my way to spend the money on it because I don't think I'd ever pay for one.
No.
But those points, man, you can do a lot with Delta points. That's all I have to say.
It's true. And if you're a platinum member, then you get 15% off after that.
Yes. All kinds of good stuff. So yeah, I definitely my Delta card is my best friend. So
yeah, it is. Especially, yes. We spend a lot of our money on Delta. So That's a pitch, Delta. You can pay me later, but it's
Right.
hard to travel on other airlines though when because everything, if you look at it, and I'm not gonna name names, but
Right.
there's one that says, okay, well, it looks like it's super cheap, but if you like read the fine print, and if you end up having to have a carry-on, if you want to sit in a certain spot, if you, and pretty soon it's the same price as a Delta ticket. It's just
Right. So,
they hide you. Now, there's one time with my daughter, she put on, I think it was 6 or 7 layers of clothes. So
oh no, does that actually work?
it does. It does. She did. It was so funny. She took a video of her in the airport. Like, it was so funny because she came looking like this. I mean, just tons of clothes because she didn't want to have to bring a carry-on.
That's so funny. I'm literally just picturing Joey from Friends coming
Yes,
walking in with all of Chandler's clothes.
it was. She did a good job, but it like underwear stuffed in different pockets, and yeah, it was great. Like 2 different bathing suits on, and yeah.
That's awesome.
But I mean, getting back to it, let's talk
Yeah.
about something. So tell me about volunteercations.
Yeah, so about I think it was, let's see, about 4 years ago or so, my husband and I went to St. Thomas, and I heard of this. I don't even know. I think I was in one of the Facebook groups or something along those lines, and I heard of this thing called Caribbean Connections, and it's basically a sponsorship network that is for a lot of the animals and stuff that are in the Caribbean nations and all those islands. So I don't know, a lot of people may not realize this, but most of those islands have an overgrowth of animals, and it's just an overabundance. So there's a lot of like kill shelters and those sorts of things on the island. Whereas here in the US, yes, we have an abundance of that as well, but we have the no kill shelters. So, animals kind of have a little bit more of a chance to survive. So one of the things that some of these islands have done is they've connected this huge network of people, and it's basically called a flight volunteer. So you'll go to these islands, you'll meet up with them, they'll give you everything you need. You get to carry a little puppy onto an airport or airplane, fly it to the US. They usually have either a foster set up and or a shelter, one of the two, for when you get into your, back home, and you meet up with them, you hand the puppy over. Puppy gets a brand new furry home, forever home, and everybody is kind of happy. So it's basically relocating them and giving them opportunities to have a life that they wouldn't have had if they stayed on island. So that's one of my favorite things to do. I also will sometimes connect with a shelter ahead of time and just see if I can come hang out, walk some dogs, that sort of thing, just so that they can kind of have, a little bit of attention. I've also kind of worked with, I've had one school where I've worked, where I've actually gone in and like read books to the class and that sort of thing. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can go ahead and give back to the places that you're visiting. And that's really what warms my heart the most. So I try to do it every vacation that I go to, at least one day.
That is so cool. And
Yeah.
some of those, they're humanitarian trips where they can be tax
Yeah.
deductible if a certain percentage
Oh,
of time is spent. Have you heard of
yeah, I
this?
didn't even know that.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I thought that that's why you were doing it.
No,
And
it's honestly, I just, I feel like, tourists for the most part are kind of looked at a negative light from locals of most of these places. So I try to at least give back to the community in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just, working with the animals or, something like that, just because I feel like I don't know, I'm giving back to them and I'm not just taking from. So it's more of like an internal warm your heart type thing. But now that I know, I will definitely be using that.
we'll look into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stipulations, but there is, when I went to Singapore, my husband, he went for work, but I was there just to hang out. So I actually like
Mhm.
tried to go to YMCA, try to do different things because it is tax deductible if you can
Oh, yeah.
look into it. I'm not an accountant, but yeah, you
Right.
can write off your trips. Yours, if you have a business, like a travel business, you can write it off
Yeah.
anyway. But anyway, that's cool.
Awesome.
So, what are your go-to travel tips for first-time international travelers?
For first time internet, the number one thing is that you are going to be nervous. So do whatever you can just to kind of research where you're going to. Try to do as much of that. I usually go to like Google Maps, like the street view, anytime that I'm booking a hotel, just so I can kind of see what it looks like on the outside, the neighborhood that I'm staying in, and that sort of thing, just to try to make sure that I'm safe. If you're a female solo traveler, which I know a lot of people are starting to kind of get into it, a couple of the tips that I would definitely make sure that I do is they make these locks on Amazon. They're like $7 or $8. You could throw them into your hotel room. It basically connects to the actual, I don't even know what it's called, the locking mechanism. So you can't open the door from the front or inside or outside unless you take it out. I feel like that's something just to kind of give myself a little bit more, confidence, because you never know, something's going to happen in the middle of the night or something like that. And another thing that I like to do that a lot of people don't really take into consideration is when I get to the hotel, I make sure that a female is checking me in. And at that point, I also tell them, look, I'm by myself. Please make sure that there's a note on my room that not to send any mails. If I order room service or anything like that, I prefer to have a female serve me. It seems a little demanding, but at the same time, it's also good to, kind of cross your T's and dot all your I's and make sure that, you're safe in those different environments. And then trust your gut. That's like the number one thing.
Yes.
If something feels off for any way, shape, or form, avoid it. That's my best tip. There's been a couple of times where I'm like, somebody will say something in the back of my head. I'm like, seems a little fishy. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not even going to trust you just because my gut says not to. So I feel like that has also kind of saved me in a few different positions as well. So
I was going to say that too, because I was in Oakland and I'm traveling by myself. I do it a ton. And there was a time I was traveling every 2 weeks. So like everywhere across the country. And I pulled into this place that I had reserved, and I just instantly felt like a bad feeling. Well, I'm
right.
like, okay, so I justified away. I'm just being paranoid because there's only one way in and one way out. I'm okay. And I swear it was a setup. From the front desk, I swear it was a setup. Because there was like this compound, like of hotel rooms right here, and you had a little courtyard. So I'm like, oh, cool. Everyone can face each other. I'm safe. No, 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 no. There's only one where you walk through and walk down, and there's one row behind that's completely off from the courtyard.
Oh,
I happened to be on the very first floor, and I had not even been there for probably 30 minutes. And when I walked in, there was no phone in the room, which there always is, right?
always.
And second, there's all of a sudden a knock because I was going to go get some food, and something told me, no, just stay in your room. And so there was a knock at the door. I'm like, there's nobody that should be here. And then there was a knock at the, and I didn't even have sheets on the bed. It was just weird. And
Yeah.
so he knocked on the window, and then he knocked on the door. So by this point, I went and looked in my peephole, and he looked like the stereotypical gangbanger, like that you could.
Oh no.
It was totally him. And then he knocks on my window again. And so I'm like, seriously, I'd have no phone or anything. And so all of a sudden I hear my window slide open. I see this hand come through the curtains. And at that point, I'm like, I am a dead woman. So I start calling, like I called my husband, and he didn't understand. I'm like, why? He's not even by me. So I called 911, and then I called the front desk. Miraculously, when the police came, there was no way, like they had no footage of the people one way in and one way out with the cameras that are there. Like it was set up, and I know that. But because I screamed and because I did different things, and I told him I had 911 and slammed that window shut as quickly as I could, he was caught off guard.
Yeah.
Like
You weren't expected to fight back.
They stood there with there was two people. He was clearly laying down in the back seat, and this guy, he then put his lights directly at my window in the car, and then they drove away. But my life, needless to
Oh
say,
my gosh.
like I demanded
Yes.
a different room. And so now I will check the room to make sure that the window is completely shut because it was cracked open. And, just those little things that you would never think about. Check your window. I always ask for a second story room now.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I don't stay in a motel because you have access out to the front, whereas a hotel, they have to come in. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just different things that you can do that I really did think I was going to die that night.
Oh
So,
my gosh, that is so scary. Yeah, I have not I mean, the worst I had was when I was in Jamaica, I had and it was a driver that I had used before. My husband and I had been there and I'd seen it my very first solo trip. I got there, you know, he drove me to the hotel and he asked me, "Oh, you're by yourself? You're by yourself?" And it's I don't know why, but as soon as he asked me that, my first instinct was, "No, my friend's going to meet me here tomorrow." You know, whatever. And then like throughout the week that I was there, he kept kind of texting me, "Hey, you want me to drop by? Can I drop by and drop you this?" Or like he was trying to bring me presents. And I'm like, this is really weird. Like I can't, like he's a really nice guy and I was comfortable around him because I'd used him before, but then he just kept kind of reaching out. And then finally I went to my hotel, the front desk and was like, "Hey, you know, my driver is making me a little uncomfortable. Is there anything that you have that is going to, you know, because they had transportation there at the hotel. So I asked them, what can I do? Can I get it last minute? And they're like, yeah, sure. We'll do whatever we can. And Hilton, by the way, shout out to Hilton. They did a really great job of taking care of me in that situation. So, but yeah, I could not imagine what I would have done in your shoes. I really don't know. I'm so glad that everything is fine and it didn't turn out to be something crazier than that. That would freak me out. Yeah. So
it was, yeah, it was super scary. And then my husband, because he couldn't understand, so he had 911. But it took a
I
minute
bet.
because it's Oakland, so it took a minute to
Right.
get to me. But you know, the other travel tip is an Uber. Sometimes people at an airport, like they're Uber drivers, but they can make more if they do not. They're not an Uber, like you know, you don't reserve through Uber. They just stand there and they're like,
Right.
it's $20 for here or whatever. Do not go with them. I had the biggest like feeling like Charisse, do not go there at all. And so because of that, I didn't. I ended up going through Uber, but you can share your location. So I shared it with my husband, my mom, my kids. I'm like, here's where I am. I'm getting in the car right now. This is where I'm going, you know. And so people think, oh, you're being over dramatic. Like I can tell you, you're not. There's so much human
Nope.
trafficking that is happening now that I would rather be overly cautious than not. And so just make sure
Exactly.
people know where you are at all times and know when they
Mhm.
know when they can expect you and meet people as you're going different places, especially if it's for work that you can network so you can look out for each other as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great tip too. I always try to hang out with people like that I meet when I'm there, but then I'm always really careful about who it is that I associate myself with as well. So, like if somebody's been hanging out for a really long time in the same area as I am, I might not be so inclined to hang out with them just
Mhm.
because I don't know if you're there to try to traffic me or
Yeah,
not.
it's true. It's true. And
Yeah,
you never know anymore because people can act like your best friend and then they turn on you.
exactly. Yeah.
So, what are the current adventures that you're planning?
Well, right now we've been kind of like this year I've basically been homebound just because we're trying to finish up getting the house ready. So we moved into the Money Pit. Have you ever watched that movie
Oh,
with
we're in that
yes.
right now too. We're
Yeah, yeah.
totally
So
excited. Mhm.
in 2020 we decided, "Oh, let's buy a new house and let's, you know, totally revamp it and make it better." And that's probably one of the biggest regrets that I think I might have had, but it's fine because it's all going to pay off soon. So we've been kind of finishing that up. Hopefully, we can move down to Georgia. Hopefully before my birthday in November, we'll see how that goes. And then I know St. Kitts is definitely on the list for next year. And then I'm also hoping for there's this little island called San Andreas off of Colombia. I'd really like to visit that as well. So we'll see how it goes.
That is fantastic. What's your
Yeah.
favorite place you've been to?
Um, oof, this one's really hard because I've been to Moorea, which is right outside of Tahiti, but and it's like you absolutely can't beat the French Polynesia Islands. There's just no way. We ended up not going to Bora Bora just because we were afraid it was going to be a little overcrowded. So visiting Moorea was basically like the more peaceful side of Bora Bora. So I definitely would say that island. But since I understand that they're a little hard to get to and that sort of thing, I would suggest St. Martin. That's definitely my close second. It's got two different countries on one island. There's so many different food choices. The water is absolutely amazing, and they have some really cool overlooks to kind of go and visit too. So I definitely would suggest that.
So how do you get the money to do this? Because a lot of people they stay in their little center and they think that they can't afford to do this ever. So what are some tips that you have?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you, I have not paid full price for a vacation ever. I've always been very much of a points person. I go through major credit cards. There's a few different ones, Chase Sapphire, all of those. If you've ever heard of the points guy, I would definitely, follow his blog. He's great. He will literally break it down step by step, which credit card to get, which ones not to get, how you can redeem your points and that sort of thing. So I definitely do as much of those tactics as I can. If it weren't for that, I definitely would not be able to travel as much as I do. So I try to use, points for flights so that I don't pay for those. And then if I can't, I will buy like a cheaper flight. I do a lot of, I know I say a lot, I fly a lot of Delta, but there are times where I will separate that because sometimes it's cheaper to do a one way than it is to do, round trip. So I might break it up and do American on the way there, Delta on the way back, that sort of thing. So that way you can double dip in your points. Yeah, points are basically what I use. And I do also make travel a priority. So I do have a savings account. So every paycheck, there's a certain amount that goes in there and that sort of thing. And we use that yearly. So I don't know. I think points are the way to go. It's kind of hard for me to imagine some of I've seen people who've spent tens of thousands of dollars on vacations, and it blows my mind because I just don't think that I could ever do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, and I think I have several timeshares. Don't recommend them. Because you
I've
have
heard that.
fees after that, and so that's
Right.
another episode. But because of that, I do. It's like $189. So if you or $249, and so you can stay in this gorgeous place. But the problem is you have to be there for a week, right? Or you just early. So shopping, maybe it's cheaper to go to this airport instead of this airport, and so
Right.
then you just need a plane ticket or a train to get you, but it might be cheaper. So I don't know. I'm determined to always get the best deal.
Yes, absolutely. So I like to go through the vendors directly because I know a lot of people don't like to do that just because they feel like they're getting a cheaper deal off of like booking.com or those sorts of places, Expedia. But I feel that, I may be spending a couple more dollars going directly through, but getting those points behind it is so much more worth it to me than it is to save a couple dollars here and there. So if I am booking and paying for it, I will go directly through the vendor and try to get that.
That is fantastic advice. Well, if somebody wants to find you and reach out and find out more about how you do it, how would they find you?
You can actually Google me. Life, Love, and Travel is probably the easiest way to find me. I'm on all of the major social medias as well with that tag. And YouTube, you can actually find me at Beachside Banter with B. That's where my podcast videos and everything is kind of set up. So yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
And one last question, because we didn't really talk about momhood. And so
no, all good.
I want you to imagine yourself sitting on a park bench and this 9-month-old or 9-month, she's not old, but she's a first-time mom, and she's waddling over to the park bench and she sits down next to you and you start talking. What's one piece of advice you would give her of any, being a mom that you wish you would have known or thought about starting out?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Trust your kids. I know that once they get older, it starts to be a little bit of is he doing what he's supposed to be doing? Is he not doing what he's supposed to be doing? That sort of thing. But I have found that the more I rode my kids and the more I was like, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, the more they rebelled against me. So as a mom who just raised 2 crazy kids, they're both successful adults now, I would definitely say to let them be a little bit, let them grow on their own, and definitely try to meet them halfway in the middle. Because a lot of times we may think we know what is best for them, but we're not necessarily in their shoes, in their situations. So being able to kind of let them make their own choices definitely helps with their independence and all that.
That is fantastic advice, and advice that I have not received yet on this show. So it's great advice that I wish that I would have been a little more. And it's hard because you want them to make right decisions, but some kids would have to learn it on their own. So
absolutely. And I have one of they're both completely different. One kid was independent literally from the age of 3, doing whatever he knew he needed to do. And then the other one was very much of a troublemaker. But he's my biggest supporter, and he's like my best friend right now. So it gets easier. It's hard. It's hard when they're little, but once they hit that teenage stage and you really kind of let them shine a little bit on their own, they start to develop and things get a lot easier. So yeah.
Classic advice. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation. So yeah.
It has. And listeners, if you were passionate about something, or if you're stressed out and you just need get away, that's something that you're making memories with. Take loved ones along. I love to do that as well. Sometimes, whether it be for work or whether it be for pleasure, I always try to bring one or all of my kids with me, so that they can have those memories and those times. Because when you're home, you're in the nitty gritty and you're focused on what you need to do, and you're focused on being a mom, you're focused on making sure that your house is together. But when you're out traveling, you don't have that stress. You just get to be. And so take the time to travel. It is worth it.
Yes. And money will always come and go, but your memories are for you or with you forever. So definitely hang on to those.
That is so true.
Yeah.
All right. Make
Awesome.
it a great day. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Sharice Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Sharice Walker.